right, now we're back. Now, so let's go back to the article. Start right there at it said, let's read that sentence again. We said the collective condemning. Give God reason right there.
A foundation myth for collective degradation, conventionally trotted out as God's reason for condemning generations of dark-skinned peoples from Africa to slavery.
Now, many of you don't know this, you're going to find this out over the next 4 weeks, but I'm going to go ahead and put this out here. There was only certain people in Africa went into slavery. You're going to find that out. They like to paint everything with a broad brush. People in Sudan didn't go into slavery. People in every Ethiopian didn't. It was only certain Ethiopians. You're going to find that out too. Okay? Ain't no slave ship pulled up to Egypt. Okay? So any guys, you guys talking about Kemet and we come from there, ain't no slave ship pulled up to the coast of Egypt. None of them. Okay? So I just wanted to put that out here as well. Go ahead.
In prior centuries, Jews, Christians, and Muslims had exploited this story for other purposes.
Read that again.
In prior centuries,
Jews, Jewish people,
Christians, and Muslims had exploited this story for other purposes.
Y'all see that? That's why I asked y'all who gave y'all denominations and religions. Because you realize, ladies and gentlemen, what you're going to learn over 4 weeks is that the people who brought us over here in slave ships were Jewish. They was on the boat, but they was driving the boat. You're going to learn that every one of the slave markets, you're going to learn that every one of the stock markets that was built off of was owned by those guys. And you're going to learn that the Catholic Church and the Church of England was the one who was also funding the slavery. And you're also going to find out that while people went into slavery and during the time while we was in Africa, it was the people that were calling themselves Muslims. 3 religions that also plays a part when you calling yourself Black and African American. So I want to put that out there. Go ahead. Oh yeah, this is not a black man that wrote this too. It's a white man. Just want to put that out. Go ahead.
Often tangential to later particular preoccupation in the 19th century U.S., the influential Josiah Priest.
Josiah Priest is the man who created the religion of Mormonism. For our people to call themselves Mormons today is one of the saddest things. If I had the time, I would go into that Book of Mormon and show you what it says about our people. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. It's really bad. They don't know nothing about no Jesus Christ. And they've never been the Latter-day Saints. This man is a wicked and evil man. Go ahead.
The influential Josiah Priest, a near contemporary in time and place of Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith, one of the main founders of the Mormon religion. Go ahead.
Revived the stories of Ham's sexual immorality in widely read tracts that before the Civil War defended racial slavery and after the war promoted racial segregation.
Y'all see that? Now, it's very important that I bring this out. That during the time of slavery, you had what they call a Great Awakening, and then you had also the Second Great Awakening, where a lot of our white brothers and sisters really found Christ. And this led to the abolitionist movement. And the abolitionists, now, don't be thrown off by the abolitionists, because even that movement was split. Some of them had an agenda too. We can't go into that. That's a whole other thing. But largely, the abolitionists were trying to prove through the Bible that all men were created equal, which is, debatable. That's another lesson for another time. But what I'm saying is that they were coming at the slave owners saying, this is not right according to the Bible. So what they had to do was, because in that time in America, the Bible was actually seen as a spiritual authoritative book. Now we know that's not what it is today, but back then, a lot of people really honored this book. So in order for them to defend what they were doing to our people, they had to give a biblical justification for it. Thus, the cursed seed of Ham. Go ahead.
A key point of transition in our sorry history, priests, little more than a self-educated Presbyterian saddle maker.
So this guy that put himself up to be this great authority used to be a Presbyterian minister. Watch this.
Though some later reprints of his work erroneously added Reverend and M.A. to his title page.
So when he started getting popularity, he put the title of Reverend and Master of Arts on his title so that people would deem himself as a scholar when he was nothing but a racist. That was the bulk of his education. Go ahead.
Made use of a tradition and remarkable similar to the Hermetic sources of Mormonism. Unlike the texts of the Latter-day Saints, priests' interpretation did in fact echo a genuinely biblical reading of sexuality and servitudism. However, in a departure from that tradition, priest was the first in the history of iconography to portray Ham as a black man.
Y'all see that? So prior to that, because of the Renaissance period, we're going to go into that next week, they had all the biblical people as white. Priests, in his attempt to justify what was being done to us, first time they said that Ham was black. I want you to remember that. How did I say to find out the truth? Look behind the lie. Go ahead.
His work transmitted and transformed ancient Near Eastern exegesis into modern American thought, mixing a tradition of sexuality and servitudism with that newly invigorated racism that flourished in the aftermath of the Jacksonian age.
Now, the Jacksonian age is what happened as a result of Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was the first common man to become president. And after that point, Andrew Jackson presented this thing to the people like, listen, the common man deserves the right to prosper just like the top percent. But what happened was, as a result of us being something free, they said, listen, if these guys got equal access to this, something ain't right. They got all the skills. They got all the talent. So that's when you started seeing a divide between white and black. It didn't exist really before that. Don't let nobody fool you. There was only a certain amount of people who had slaves, and most of them were Jewish. They never tell you. And for those who don't believe me, I have an article that was written by a white man that says, we thought they were white. That's the reason why during the Civil War, they came up with a rule that said if you had 10 or more slaves, you was exempt from fighting the war. The average white man had no slaves. So y'all don't fall into these traps when you see a white guy with a Confederate flag and think this guy hates you. That guy with that Confederate flag was fighting for everything he had because he was being lied to just like everybody else. He had to go out and fight and die for something he never benefited from. It's called divide and conquer. That's what they did. All right? So I wanted to make sure I brought that out because I don't want everybody thinking, oh, every white man lied. No. In order for this to work, they had to lie to everybody. Okay? So I wanted to make sure I brought that out. All right, go ahead right here.
Priest's approach differs from what, according to Eugene Genovese and others, dominated the divisive debates over the Bible and slavery in the antebellum United States.
The antebellum is talking about Southern charm, the Southern traditions. Go ahead.
The evidence gathered by Stephen Haynes suggested that priests' lucid accounts of Black Ham's sex crimes justified the fiercely and widely held Southern argument that Hamite dishonor demanded enslavement and degradation.
Y'all see that? So by them presenting Ham as black and saying, this is why they're enslaved, because you see when he said, curse be Canaan, it went from being curse be Canaan to curse be Ham. And this is why when people say, from theological school, they say, black people are the curse of the man. They teach that in the theological schools to this day. Okay? So now they had a justification for what they were doing. Biblical, even though it was wrong. Go ahead.
Recent studies of the religious debates over slavery have focused on the clerical elite to the neglect of the popular religion that shaped the common culture in which the better educated wrote and were heard.
So the ones who knew what was going on, they knew better. But the ones who didn't could be swayed depending on what the agenda they had. Go ahead.
According to Mark Noll, the dominant school of American common sense, literalism, pressed the case for biblical slavery, confident that the word would set no slave free.
The word will set no slave free. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, in a country who says they're one nation under God, who has a Bible in their courtroom that you have to swear on, that's the reason why we're still treated the way we are. Because they're basing everything they do to us off of this, which is a lie. That's why in the Constitution, that was never changed, you are 3/5 of a man. Do you guys know that a few weeks ago, that when they had those, what they say, attacks in these Jewish places, that it only took them 4 days to pass a law that said anyone that practiced Judaism is now considered a race? But do you know that to this day, that the anti-lynching laws have not been passed? 4 days, law. 200 years of killing, no law. What does that tell you? You see that? They're saying everything that happened to us, based on this, is justified. And with us, because we don't know who we are, we're going to them, love us, love us, love us. And you're going to find out the Most High saying, I've been loving you, just didn't know it. All right? Next article. From Noah curse to slavery rationale. It's written by Felicia Lee, November 1st, 2003. You will get this as well. This is a New York Times article. It was telling the breakdown of the Noah thing that he just brought out from the guy from Yale University, and brought out, he's going to show you that all this stuff was made up and how it was used to exploit us. All right, go right there.
In the biblical account, Noah and his family are not described in racial terms.
See that? Now, notice when we read over there in Genesis 9, did they say anything about what color they were? I want you to remember that. Because what I'm going to show you in a minute, color was not an issue because everybody there was the same color. Okay, so just small movie now, notice this, all right? But the lie was, hey, your man Ham's black. Okay, all right, go ahead.
But as the story echoed through the centuries and around the world, variously interpreted by Islamic, Christian, and Jewish scholars, Ham came to be widely portrayed as black.
Y'all see that? The guys that we have anointed to be our spiritual leaders are the liars.
I mean, you would think that common sense would tell you that if one son was black.
Hold on. My sister came in here locked and loaded. We coming there. All right, go ahead. Sister's ready. When I saw her down there the other day, she already told me, I'm up on this thing. I see she is. Go ahead.
Widely portrayed as black, blackness, servitude, and the idea of racial hierarchy became inextricably linked.
Y'all see that? So the Jewish, the Christians, and the Muslims deem us as lower class based on this false lie. And they use that to justify it. Okay, go ahead.
By the 19th century, many historians agree the belief that African Americans were descendant of Ham was a primary justification for slavery among Southern Christians.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
Stephen R. Haynes, a professor of religion at Rhodes College in Memphis, is less interested in the origins of Ham's supposed blackness than in why certain cultures have found the story so alluring.
Mm-hmm.
It appealed to racial slavery because Ham acted like you expected a black man to act.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that? It said Ham act like a black man's supposed to act. Disrespectful. Not honoring his father. See what they think about us? This guy's a professor at a theological school. He's preparing the ministers and pastors. Go ahead.
Mr. Haynes, who published Noah's Curse, the biblical justification of American slavery, Oxford University Press last year, slavery was necessary in the white Southern mind to control the ungovernable black.
Read that again.
Slavery was necessary in the white Southern mind to control the ungovernable black.
Ungovernable black. It's hard to hear, but this is what they think. That's why I asked you, who gave you your denomination? Who gave you your belief system? Because we didn't build no churches. They built the churches for us. Go ahead.
Slavery is the response to Ham's rebellious behavior.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
The reason the text was so valued by 19th century people was that it was about honor.
It's about honor.
Mr. Haynes said Ham acted dishonorably and slavery was life without honor.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
While thousands of people have tried to interpret Noah's curse, Mr. Haynes writes, scholars of history and religion alike have failed to comprehend the pro-slavery Southerners were drawn to Genesis 9:20 through 27 because it resonated with their deepest cultural values.
So that's the reason why they pulled it out. It gave them a biblical justification for what they were doing. Go ahead.
Too often, he writes, historians have superficial knowledge of the Bible.
Superficial knowledge of the Bible, which means that you made up stuff. Go ahead.
And scholars of religion have limited knowledge of Southern culture.
With a limited understanding of why they're doing what they're doing. That's a dangerous combination. Go ahead.
In 18th and 19th century Euro-America, Genesis 9:18 through 27 became the curse of Ham.
That's when it became the curse of Ham. No one in the world ever believed this before the 1700s.
That's right. Can I add one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Nat Turner taught the same thing you guys are teaching.
He did. And what happened to him?
They killed him.
We're going to be going to that in session 3.
Yeah.
We're going to show you. I'm going to, since the lady is putting it all out. Session 3, we're going to go into a showing that all of our preachers and pastors, predominantly in North and South Carolina, was telling our people who they really were.
Exactly.
I got all the proof. I'm going to give it to you.
Come on now.
As early as 1900s.
That's right.
And you know what happened to those preachers?
Yep.
We're going to prove.
They
Watch this. Where we at? Okay, yeah.
Genesis 9:18 through 27 became the curse of Ham, a foundation myth for collective degradation, conventionally trotted out as God's reason for condemning generation of dark-skinned peoples from Africa to slavery, says Mr. Braun's paper for the Yale Conference.
Right.
In prior centuries, Jews,
Jewish,
Christians, and Muslims had exploited this story for other purposes, often tangential to the latter particular preoccupation.
y'all see that? And when you go into, boy, if you go into their stuff in the Kabul and Talmud of how they see us, they call us koi. They call us goy, equal to cattle. The only purpose we have for them is to serve their needs. Don't get caught up in these guys coming on TBN and they start smiling, man. They hate your guts. They hate your guts. We're going to find out about that today. They hate your guts. Watch this.
Like other scholars, Mr. Broad concludes that later social and economic forces turned Ham into a justification for slavery.
Read that again. Listen to what he said.
Mr. Broad concludes that later social and economic forces
Social and economic functions, go ahead.
turned Ham into justification for slavery.
Because it was about the money. And it was about who would rule, who would be in charge. Go ahead.
Before the 16th or 17th century, the racial interpretation of Ham is absent or contradictory.
You see that? Then it's this. No one needed to say who he was, what the colors were, because everybody knew who they were. And you're about to find it out in a very few moments. Go ahead.
The question is, where does this
Hold on. I got you.
The question is, where does this thing we call racism and racial hierarchy start?
Where does it start? Now, Spirit is telling me to bring this out. This wasn't in my notes. If anybody wants this, I will give it to you. When I ask people, when we travel to different places, and when they ask people the question, what happened to our people? Why is this going on with our people? You know what the number one answer we always get? Racism. But what if I told you that the word racism didn't exist till 1901? By a man by the name of William Henry Pratt, researcher. And when the word racism was created, William Henry Pratt was not even talking about us. He was talking about the so-called Native Americans. He was talking about if you kill the Indian, save the man. And he was saying that we as the Europeans wasn't giving the Native American an opportunity to become us. So that's why they started going onto their reservations and kidnapping their young, bringing them to Catholic schools and teaching them English and Catholicism. Kill the Indian, save the man. Racism had nothing to do with us. That word didn't exist until William Henry Pratt in 1902. Research it if you don't believe me. So if racism, the word racism didn't exist in 1902, what was their reason for doing it in the 1600s? You want to learn that? Let's go. Start, I'll put that out there. Go ahead.
It is a huge question and a big blame attached to it.
Right?
Is it the Christians, the Muslim, or the Jews? You find evidence for all three.
All three. All of these religions played a part in you saying that you were black. Every one of them. Now my sister already proposed the question. If Ham is black, then what color did Noah and his wife have to be? You ever heard of a white man and a white woman making a black man?
It can't happen genetically, it will not.
But it can happen that a black man and a black woman can produce a white man. It has happened, and it's biblical. You will learn that in session 3. Now, so if Noah is black and Ham is black, what color is Shem?
Black.
What color is Japheth?
Black.
Makes sense, right? Now, you will get this as well. So could you pass a couple of these out? What I'm about to show you is a biblical map of the time during, you will get this in your thing, but I wanted you guys to see it right now. Just pass out a few of them around. We don't got enough for everybody, but you will get this in your package. This is a biblical map of the time of when it was only Ham, Shem, and Japheth in the land. I want you guys to see something particular there. Okay? Remember, that's why I started with the Middle East thing, that there was only 7 continents, right? You're going to find something very, very interesting there. You notice that you're going to see an area where Canaan is, right? My pastors, what is modern day Canaan? But what is modern day Canaan now? What did the land did God give to the children of Israel as they came out of Egypt? What was the land?
Would it be Israel?
Yep, but Canaan is modern day Israel. Look at that. Look at on the map. You see where Israel is. Whose land is that? So that means, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why they created the Middle East is because Israel is in Africa.
Yeah. This is right there. Right there.
That's North Africa, ladies and gentlemen.
It's right there.
That's the reason why they created the Middle East. Because if you knew that Israel was in Africa, you would start asking the question, who is this guy?
Michelangelo.
No, his name is Serge Borgia.
Michelangelo didn't do it.
Leonardo da Vinci did this one,
Oh, okay.
but Michelangelo did other ones.
Yeah,
That's
of
in
his
it.
own family, yeah.
Who's this guy? See that? Y'all see that? This is why. Because this image didn't exist until the Renaissance period. This is about 1500s. So you had to come up with this because now, with all these black people being free over here that come from this area, you had to tell them, hey man, who is this? They told them this is God. This is Jesus now. See that? Who are these? Who are these people? Hold on, man. Hold on. We want to be right now. Who are these?
They are actually Europeans.
We know that, but who do they say they are? They say they're Jewish, right?
Yeah.
And so Christianity teaches you what? These are who? That's what they tell you, right?
Yeah, that's a lie.
So Christianity told you that this was your Savior. He don't.
That dude used to follow me around the house.
No.
They told you this was your Savior. And they told you this was God's chosen people. It's coming. I asked y'all to be patient. Be patient, okay? Now, let's go back. Now, so, hold up the book so they can see the book. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call, everyone needs to have this, a special passage. You need to get you one of these. It's called a Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. You'll be able to find all the definitions and everything of what the Bible is saying. You'll be able to find out the regions and everything, okay? Black man didn't write this book. This was written by them. So you can't say that I wrote it. I promise you that every verse we're going to go through in a minute will not be out of the book of Levander. I promise you. If you ever come across a book of Levander, burn it. Don't listen to it. That guy's an apostle, he's a liar, okay? Don't listen to him. All right, okay. So, this is out of the Bible, Compact Bible Dictionary. They told us that we were the cursed seed of Ham.
Yes, we did.
That's what they told us, right? Now, out of the Bible dictionary, we're reading here the definition of Ham. Read that.
Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negro.
Not who?
Not the Negro.
Not who?
Not the Negro.
Y'all see that?
Not the Negro.
This is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Read it again. The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood.
Now, you know that, remember as I told you, there was only 8 people alive. Noah, his wife, Ham, his wife, Shem, his wife, Japheth, his wife. We're talking about Ham here, who they said we come from. Read it again.
The youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes.
Not the Negroes, but
the Egyptians,
Ethiopians, Libyans,
and Canaanites.
Look at that map. All black people. Now, my sister just pointed out that if Ham was black, Noah and his wife had to be black. That means his brothers was black.
Absolutely.
But the Bible dictionary tells us that we didn't come from Ham.
No.
Now we know that Japheth is predominantly who? The Asians. So who does that leave? Shemites. So the next time some Jewish person comes to you and say you're being anti-Semitic, this is what I want you to respond to them. Number 1, Semitic is not a people. His name was Shem. And I can't be anti-Semitic because I'm Shemitic. Now, we're going to prove that. Today, we're going to show you right here all these people are black. And you're going to say, but listen, you told me this was black history according to the Bible. We're starting there. Next week, you're going to find out who you really are. Now, let's go on a ride. This is where we're going to end off today. It's going to ride. Let's go to Genesis 42 and 8. And I'm about to show you all of the people of the Bible. KJ version, please. I can't speak for the rest. Right? KJV. This is not going to be left open for interpretations. It's going to say it real clear. Okay? Now, Pete, before we get into this again, read that last part that says, not the Negroes, but who? Who was Ham?
Progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes,
Not the Negroes.
but the Egyptians,
The Egyptians.
Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites.
All right, now let's go to Genesis 42 and 8. All right. Genesis 42 and 8. Now, anybody ever heard the story of Joseph? Everybody know about that story, right? We know that Joseph, his brothers betrayed him and brought him down into slavery, sold him into slavery into where? Egypt. He rose up as he was a man of God and stuck with the Most High and ended up becoming the second most powerful man in the world. We know that the Most High sent the famine upon the earth, and that now Jacob sent his sons down into Egypt to get food because Egypt was the only place that had food. We read that story, right? All right. So this is what we're going to hit such here in Genesis 42, verse 8.
And Joseph knew his brethren,
And Joseph knew his brethren,
but they knew him not.
but they knew him not. Now, if Joseph was a white Jewish man in a country full of black people, wouldn't he stand out?
Yes, he would.
Then you know, he couldn't have been white.
Absolutely.
Y'all see that? He knew exactly who they was, but they couldn't tell who he was. And you ain't gonna tell me if you got 1,000 black people in a room and one white man, he ain't gonna stand out. That's my brother over there. That's what they're gonna say. That's my brother. I'm white. That's the only white man. We're in a black country full of black people. That's my brother. It got to be. If you ain't my brother, at least my cousin.
That's the same motion.
I say we take this to a white church.
I have. But not the version that you guys are getting.
Important is that we know who we are first.
We got to start with us first.
We gotta start with us first.
Now, let's go to Exodus 2. So we found out Joseph was black. So next time you go on TBN and they start and they pull out these little guys, just turn the TV. Their lives in the deceivers. All right? Let's go to Exodus 2, 18 through 19. Right? Exodus 2, 18 through 19. Watch this. You can start at verse 18.
And when they came to Ruel, their father, he said, how is it that ye come so soon today?
Now, so we know after here, for those who don't know the story, Moses was on the run from Pharaoh. Moses was a Hebrew, and he didn't like the way his brother was being treated. So he killed an Egyptian soldier, and he went on the run from Pharaoh. He came down into the area of Midian. He came to this brook. He saw these women watering their sheep. These men tried to strong on them, and Moses took over, ran them off, and began to water their flocks for them. Jethro, their father, said, listen, I got nothing but daughters, and it normally take y'all a certain amount of time to do this. Y'all got back a whole lot faster than you normally do. So read that again. He said what? So listen to the question Jethro asked in verse 18.
How is it that ye are come so soon today?
What did they say?
And they said, an Egyptian.
They said what?
An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock.
So if Moses was a white Jewish man, why would they call him an Egyptian? The reason why they called him an Egyptian, because he had on Egyptian apparel. You know, he served in the house of the Pharaoh. Because Pharaoh's daughter found him on the river, and he got raised up to be the next Pharaoh prince.
Yes, you did.
So that's why she called him an Egyptian, based on the clothes that he had. But if he was a white Jewish man, she would have never called him that. You see how it happens when you have this information? This is the reason why they tell you, don't worry about the Old Testament. That's why they tell you that. And who told you that? It's the same ones that gave you Christianity. Don't worry about that. Because they know when you go into that, you're going to see you. The sister brought up Nat Turner, and we're going to show you other preachers. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm putting the cart before the horse, but do you know that it was not always illegal to teach a slave to read? I'm going to show you that during the time that they taught them to read because it helped them be more sufficient to do what they needed them to do. But when they started sending out Nat Turner and these other preachers to the plantations to spin the white Jesus and to spin the curse of Ham, these guys get to read this Bible and say, hold up now, something ain't adding up. So you think they was worried about them reading Shakespeare? You think if they wrote the poems of Homer that they was worried about? No. They weren't worried about them reading haikus from Japan. They knew if they got here read this Bible, they gonna say, hold up. And that's why I told you, don't get caught up in this whole thing of the abolitionists, because if I have time, I'm gonna teach you about the slave Bible that the abolitionists presented to our people, that took out the majority of the Old Testament, Revelation, and only emphasized certain scriptures that said, obey your masters. So what people don't realize is when you see in biblical times, when you see the word slave and servant, that's nothing equivalent to an employee.
That's right.
If it's just like if Pastor Lee had a business and I went and worked for him, I would be considered his servant. Not what they did to us in this country. If they was following this Bible, the Bible says in the law, after 7 years, you must do what? You must let the slave go.
That's right.
That's the law.
That's the law.
But they said that a slave would never be free because you are the cursed seed of Ham. See how that works? Now, let's go to somebody else. Let's go to Acts 21. So let's take a count here. Joseph, black. Moses, black. Let's go. We ain't there yet. We're going to go to Acts 21 first. All right? We're going to go there. I'm going to show them another popular guy that everybody knows. His name is Paul. Shaul. I saw all my brothers in the building. Y'all don't even know how much it means to me to have y'all with me today. Acts 21. And let's read verse 38, 39. So we know, for those who don't know the biblical background story of this, Paul went and told them when they locked him up for preaching this gospel, he said, listen, I want to be taken to Rome. You know, council has considered me guilty. I have enough information to prove that I'm not. But I want to be here before Caesar. So now Paul is in chains.